by Govinda, who is a thought leader and an author who dives deep into our scriptures, goes to the ocean bed, and picks up these rare jewels and pearls for us to experience and explore on the shores of our life. We are very grateful to you, Prabhuji, for giving us and presenting us these 10 laws of living. As this course is about living and life, I'm sure we will have questions which we will take towards the end. So kindly raise your hand and we will invite you into this conversation. With these words, over to you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे विश्वेश्वरवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम राम। Thank you, Deepak and Kriya Chaitanya Prabhu, for organizing this 10 rules for life. This is based on the teachings of Bhagavad Gita only. We see there are two things. One is the life and other is our own self. Jiva and Jivan. Right? So Jivan is an external reality because we need to perform our day-to-day activities. And Jiva's ultimate goal is to basically evolve more and more and transcend to the spiritual platform. That's an inner reality. So if you see the background of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna had no problem with his inner reality. His faith was not disturbed. His identity was not confusing. Only thing was disturbing for him was his external reality, his duties, his responsibility. And one may say the external responsibility does not matter. No, it does matter. The external responsibility has the power to disturb our inner reality because our level of evolvement, if it is not deep, and certainly it will not be deep because we are affected by man, buddhi and ahankar. And therefore when Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita, yada yada hi dharmasya glani. So whenever there is an incoherency, whenever there is mismanagement, right? If we all believe and create a system where we say more disturbance, deeper you go spiritually. But that is not the practical reality. If there is a greater disturbance in one's own life, in one's community's life, in one state life, then what does it do? It basically creates distraction to our existence, right? So therefore, when the Lord appears, when Krishna appears in this world, he comes to create systems. Dharma. A dharma is an external reality. There is no confusion about bhakti and dharma. Dharma is pure management of the universe, which includes your inner reality also. So when Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, it's a harmony between the inner reality and the external reality. And the subtler, the three realities, the constitutional means my identity with God, my conditional, my identity with my profession, my circumstantial, my identity with my immediate surrounding. All these three realities matter to us, right? So, what does Krishna do? Unlike many other textbooks, scriptures, he focuses on the objective reality also, which is called as pratyaksha pramana. Now, pratyaksha pramana, or the evidence, the direct evidence, is not rejected in the Shastras. The direct evidence is not complete, it is not evolved in regards to understanding our relationship with God and those things which are beyond matter. That requires Shraddha. Now, what is Shraddha for everybody? Shraddha is nothing but investing your energy, investing your heart, closing your intelligence for some time in something which is beyond your perception, right? Following the traditional idea, respect your superiors, listen to what they say, listen to the scripture, worship God, with full faith. For your spiritual advancement, you need Shraddha. But for life, we need reason and logic. So the external reality requires direct evidence. First comes reason, logic, then comes faith. With the principle of Shraddha, faith, first comes faith, then comes logic and reason. Somebody who's a faithful person comes to you and tells, you just listen to me what I say. Don't listen to them if they're speaking about investing your money, if they're speaking about buying your house, if they're speaking about your educational system, if they're speaking about going to a doctor, because they are coming from another perspective of life, the inner perspective. If you are going to a doctor, what do you need? You need reason and logic. There is examination, there are questions, there are tests, right? So this is all based upon observational reality, statistics centric. That is called nyaya. And when you see somebody repeatedly doing it rightly most of the time, if their statistics is more than 80%, 90%, we feel this person is worthy of our trust. So how did we develop trust in them? Because they are able to produce a result which is consistent, which is steady. You know, it is not like let's one time they do well, one time they do not well. So then we know they're 50% successful, and 50% successful does not guarantee for you to invest your money, wealth, energy with them, right? It is almost like a fail only. So therefore, what Krishna does to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, he is focusing most of the time based upon the external observational reality. They are unrefutable unless one is stubborn not to accept it. If I say by putting your hand in the fire, it will burn, it doesn't matter who says it. Even the worst of your enemy, whom you are willing to, curse, or you are so angry that you want to kill them. But if they tell the truth, that if you put your hand in the fire, it burns, to say that I don't believe this because you are saying, that means they don't believe in the observational reality of life. Right? If somebody says, if you drink water, it quenches your thirst. Now, this is called as an observational reality. Pratyaksha pramana. There is no refutation in this regard. There is no question of challenging this. There is no God involved in it. When you talk about who made such law, how is that the water quenches our thirst? How is that fire burns our finger? Then these are philosophical, poetic realities, right? Why it is happening? We can explain the process, how it is happening. How it is happening is a pure science. Why it is happening is pure metaphysics, right? A metaphysics requires a deeper logic based upon the foundational principle of faith. Therefore, these 10 rules of life, they have nothing to do with what you believe in, whether you believe in this philosophy, that philosophy. It is based upon dharma, it is not based upon shraddha. Even for that matter, shraddha in the Bhagavad Gita is founded in logic and reason only. In the Bhagavatam, it is explained that shraddha, faith without dharma, gives rise to inauspiciousness. Faith without dharma gives rise to violence. Faith or loyalty without dharma makes us radical, makes us exclusivist, makes us feel that we are superior to everybody else, makes us feel that others do not need to stay in this world if they don't believe what I believe. See, there is limitless shraddha, but the shraddha is giving rise to limitless violence. Therefore, it is so amazing to understand, if there is a problem for a person accepting the inner realities of life, that is not a problem for Krishna when he is teaching Bhagavad Gita. If you don't surrender to Krishna, he is not going to send you to the hellish consequences forever, saying that, oh, you don't believe me? I'm going to send you. That is your inner reality. We have discussed this many times, those who have attended. When Krishna came to Duryodhan to speak what? He didn't speak Bhagavad Gita to him. He did not speak Bhagavad Gita, but he spoke the logic of Gita itself. Krishna spoke the sutras, the essence to Arjuna, and Krishna spoke the detailed essence to Duryodhan. Rather than getting into the principles, he was getting into the nitty-gritties of the principle to Duryodhan. He was telling him mathematics, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, Duryodhan. If you put your hand in the fire, it will burn. If you jump from the 7-story building, you'll break your bones. If you go and eat thorns from the bushes, it will not taste like a srikhand or a sweet dishes. It will beat your mouth. If you are blinded and you run fast, you'll fall and break your bones. Now, is there any anger in speaking this? Is there any cursing verses? No, these are not curses. These are factual realities of life, right? So when we go through the factual realities of life and then we add the inner reality of our spiritual journey, the integration does not give rise to questions which you are not supposed to raise only. They're redundant questions. Recently, one very famous actor in Karnataka, he passed away. He was only 45 years old. Right? Very nice person, had a legacy of good behavior coming from his father, living a very humble life, giving a lot of charity to poor people, to schools, education institution, you know, and at the same time not talking about it, right? When he passed away, because I am from that state and because I used to watch his father's movie, you know, so when I started understanding what are the reactions of the fan, right? So many fans reacted saying that we don't believe in God anymore. We're very upset. that somebody wrote, because he was doing such a good thing to the society, God became envious of him, seeing his charitable activity. Therefore, he took him away. कल से हम लोग from tomorrow we are not going to put any lamp in front of him. Many people, you know, we will discuss this concept of anger towards God. We have discussed that in our seminar on rasa and relationship, right? But see how people react without understanding the foundational principle of life. Somebody made a statement, oh my God, what is this? He was doing exercise every day, he was working out, he was gymming, he was so healthy, but still he passed away from this world. What is the point of doing all these things? Hmm? It's all humbug, it's all bakwas, right? Again, they forgot a very foundational principle of life: hurting themselves. It doesn't hurt God. Their anger towards God does not make God angry. If millions of fans become angry with God, Krishna, Shiva, whoever it is, you think they will take it seriously? Logically, they'll only smile and cry at them for their stupidity and their innocent devotion towards Him without having a logic of life. Therefore, the first principle in the Bhagavad Gita, which is an observational reality, nobody can refute that. So, we'll take such principles for our next 10 sessions and try to get into the logic of life. We are not here to induce faith based upon your abstract reality of life. What is there. I'm not going to speak about going to the spiritual world. I'm not going to speak about back to Godhead. I'm not going to speak about being in the Vaikuntha planet. We might discuss the consciousness of Vaikuntha, but we will not discuss the space Vaikuntha. No? Because at this stage in our seminar, it is beyond my level of reality. Right? Let us take an example. In the 15th, 16th century, the Renaissance happened in European countries. The scientific community, in one sense, stood against the faith community, against the church specifically. Right? Based upon what? Because the church in the Old Testament, in regards to creation, there are certain outright claims in regards to how creation functions. And when this observation from the book was contradictory to the findings of the scientific community, they were questioning, oh my God, this is not real, this is not logical, this is not coherent. And at the same time, they were exploring to unearth the nature, the prakriti, and they were able to create new discoveries which were not existing before 15th, 16th, 17th century. So what happened, where you see one place there is a flaw in something in regards to creation, and there is a discovery beyond the Bible, so that gave rise to atheism in the heart of large number of people. And the atheism became more prominent because they felt now we can actually explore the creation to such an extent, we can figure out, we can find out, we can reach to the conclusion of the greatest secrets of the universe, right? So that confidence made them completely go against the church, right? There was a conflict, there was a division in the society. So that idea can be called as nastikata. Nastikta means I don't believe the scripture, I don't believe the concept of the God what is presented, right? And if you study carefully, the anger was not exactly towards God. The anger was directed to description which was given there. Then, as the times went on, what they realized that actually exploring the universal reality is not true. There is something we always will miss. The true scientific community, those who had the humility and deeper education in exploring the creation, they realize no, no, our claims are not exactly what we were told. So rather than becoming atheistic, they moved from being atheistic to being agnostic. What is agnostic? Atheistic is misdirected from his path, or he doesn't have a path. And agnostic is questioning the path. Where will it lead? Hmm? So these conflict between theism, atheism, and agnostic made people focus more on the external reality of life. Now we want evidence. We want statistics. We want transformation when I follow something like this, right? So, so what does Krishna do? In his Bhagavad Gita, if you study carefully, as I said, he gives us the principle of observational reality. And the first reality, based upon whether it is the Punit's death or based upon what the scientific community, without getting into conflict between their theism and atheism, this principle which Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita has nothing to do with agnostics. It has nothing to do with atheistic. It is nothing to do with theistic, but it is all applicable to theistic, atheistic, and agnostics, because this is the truth of life. What is the truth of life? The truth of life is duality is reality. No, Krishna, he told Arjuna while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. If you actually see, those who are little wise and intellectual in India, I will not specifically name, but there are communities who deal the death of their family members where they had a responsible relationship, very responsible. They were together for rest of their life. When one of their family member passes away, they experience pain, but they do not experience stoppage of her life. They are not grieving to such an extent, their grief is not beyond time. They grieve to some time and they transcend that eventually and move on to their life. Now, this is the truth, right? And therefore, Krishna is speaking that. And now, this is the key to Bhagavad Gita. If we understand this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, then rest of the verses will start making more and more sense. Gita is like a treasure house, and 2.14 is the key for entering into the treasure house. Hear it repeatedly and reflect upon this verse into our life anywhere, everywhere, all over the world. Whether it is America, Europe, wherever you go, you'll experience this duality. The nature of duality may be different, the flavor of duality may be different, the taste of duality may be different, but the foundational principle of duality will always continue to exist. If I can catch this verse, then all the mystical things, all the magical thing, all the deception things of magic, mystical thing will permanently disappear from our heart, because we will not approach spirituality for experiencing freedom, complete freedom from distress and complete happiness. O son of Kunti, the non permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer season. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Now, this verse, who is speaking? Now, let us assume, okay, I'm not, again, as I said, assume that it is spoken by God and spoken to a godly person for the sake of logic, who are on the highest level of perception. Their sense perception is very deep, very subtle, very, very clear. If you take from that perspective, or you take it from an ordinary child studying in a school with a teacher, 7th standard, a 12-year-old kid, a girl or a boy, does not matter, or somebody like Arjuna who is very advanced, spoken by Krishna. Now, this knowledge does not require any brain substance. It does not require raising your eyebrows. It does not require questioning or holding their hand to the brain. Does it make sense? Is it reality? It is clear, right? It's the foundation. What is it? They arise from sense perception, the appearance and distress of winter and summer season. And one should learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Death is as real as birth. More than 27,000 people take birth every day. Maybe number has increased. I had seen it 1 or 2 years ago in India alone. And about 20, whatever number, people die every day. So how can birth, we are not surprised, and death happens, we are surprised to such an extent, we start questioning the existence of God. We start questioning the mentality of God, anger, frustration, right? Why? Because duality is the reality. If you accept the duality, and therefore the traditional system created sports for the children to experience this from their childhood. Sport was never a profession, right? Play, krida, sport gave children to experience this dynamic duality as a playfulness while playing, right? Every one of us, we have played the game of snake and ladder. Whether you are American, whether you are European, whether you are some native pagan religion or from India, anywhere, everybody has played the game of snake and ladder or something which is resembled to that. What does it do? You throw the dice. And what happens when you throw the dice? There is nobody in this world who has not entered into the mouth of the snake and come down while playing the game of snake and ladder. Right? Whether it is Donald Trump or whether it is Obama, or for that matter, Rahul Gandhi also. When they played this game, even Rahul Gandhi has gone up to the staircase, and even Obama has come through the mouth of the snake. And when you play this game, very interestingly, regularly as a child, unconsciously you become conscious of the reality of life. When there is an unconscious consciousness, just like learning your mother tongue, when you learn your mother tongue, you are unconsciously learning it. Nobody is teaching you, right? So similarly, when you are dealing continuously with the concept of duality through play, through everyday affair, then when something goes wrong in regards to distress or happiness, you may not instantly rise beyond pain, but the period of suffering becomes minimized. When you can minimize the period between the suffering and distress, again, 20, 30 years ago, when we used to watch cricket, right? Whenever the bowlers took wickets, they won a point against their enemy. The celebration was not crazy because they knew that the next batsman will come and he will go and play. So the celebration was limited and the suffering was limited as much as the pain and pleasure were celebrated, that much one was able to deal with the duality, but the duality is the truth, right? Now, do we need Shraddha in this? Do we need God for this? Do we need to be connected to some spiritual organization to understand this? Or do we need to be initiated to understand this? Or do we need to believe in God to understand this? Or do we need to have a mark on our body to believe this and experience this? No. It is meant for everybody to not only understand, experience on day-to-day basis. When it is so strongly there in our day-to-day life, why we see in this world there is an assumption, there is an imagination, there is a propaganda to tell us that we are here to remove all your distress. This was not assured even by Krishna to the greatest of his devotee, saying that, you know what, you be with me, you'll be victorious all the time. In the entire Bhagavad Gita, those who are first time coming in our talks, in the entire Bhagavad Gita, there are 700 verses, including Sanjay speaking, Dhritarashtra speaking, Arjuna speaking, and Krishna speaking. You know how many times Krishna promises Arjuna for victory in the entire Bhagavad Gita, other than in the universal form? When he came in his universal form, which at this stage we don't have to believe in it because we are approaching the observational reality. We want to park that, park it in the car park because we are not there now. So therefore, from that perspective, in the entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is not promising Arjuna victory because he is his devotee. But what is he promising? Let us read based upon this principle of duality. He says, "O best among men, the person is not disturbed by happiness and distress, is steady in both, is certainly eligible for liberation. One who has taken his birth is sure to die. That is misery. And after death, one is sure to take birth. Happy birthday. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Hear it carefully. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin." Can you imagine? Krishna is not giving any assurance to Arjuna that you'll always win. In fact, he says it doesn't matter you win or lose, because you are a warrior, because you are a businessman, because you are a worker, because you are this person or that person. It is not even responsibility, it is your nature. Let us not call it as a responsibility. It is your nature to experience these things in your life. What can regression accomplish, right? So therefore, when we play sports, as I mentioned, a sport gives rise to sporting spirit in life. But if sport is made into life itself, where will you go for a sporting spirit? One of the greatest tragedy of the modern world is that the sports people have great depression because they take it too seriously. The entertainment industry people, they take entertainment so seriously, right? They become really egoistic in regards to, they start considering their role to be real. If the entertainment and sports, which are supposed to help us to minimize the gap between the duality, becomes the field of depression, where will you go to experience breaking the gap of duality? Therefore, in so many places, Krishna, he says, one who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is an happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, anger, is called sage of steady mind. Now, when he speaks that, one may say, but it's too difficult. It may be too difficult, but it is not impossible, because it is just like when you are riding a bicycle first time. You have no experience of riding. You get shocked. How is it possible without the third wheel, without the four wheel, the bicycle would balance itself? Your logical mind will not understand. But if you start working, start driving, helped by your brother, sister, father, mother, they're taking you around, encouraging you, and you're falling left side, you're falling right side. Nowadays, we have made a bicycle with three or four wheeler, not giving that experience to children. The safety of riding a bicycle with four wheeler destroys, in one sense, the future experiences of life, because life will cause disturbance on the right side, life will cause disturbance on the right side. The two wheeler is actually has a deep meaning, right? Because it gives rise, right side there is a victory, left side there is a defeat. And our vehicle sometime will go at the go towards right, sometime it will go at the right side, but let it not go to such an extent there is a fall. And even if there is a fall, doesn't matter, the bicycles do fall. Many times we drop the bicycles while learning, and the parents come, "Arey, aisa nahi, no, not like this, rise up." They will make us stand, and sometimes we fall along with the bicycle, causing some pain to us, right? There is no sports person in this world. If you are a cricket fan from Donald Broadman, or if you are a basketball player, where they have not experienced humiliation while playing. I always give this example of great Donald Broadman, Sir Donald Broadman, the Australian cricketer, right? Nobody has ever broken his average, 99.94. But in his last match, he went out for duck. So even in his statistic, when you open his score sheet, even though his scoring rate is 99.94, but still that also has duck, zero, as a score, a golden duck nowadays they call it as. Because unless you have the courage, capacity, and natural acceptance ki I could go out for zero also. Unless one has the courage to go out for zero, there is no question of scoring 100. The 100 will come with zero only. One may say, no, there is one player, he has not scored duck, but he has gone out for one, he has gone out for two. So one and two has no significant value in comparison to one or two. It is still does not contribute in tangible contribution to the team, right? So therefore, we have seen in this world, we see that equanimity amongst people, like this young actor one who passed away. Nothing entered in his brain to become egoistic, right? Like, in one sense, the repealing of the farm law is the most miserable defeat of the prime minister. No, I am not making any comment, not supporting him, not condemning, but withdrawing that farm law from a political perspective could cause such a great humiliation, withdrawing from what is good for the farmers according to according to that party, right? But repelled it. But what we see is the action has not stopped. The action has not stopped. India could get out with 36 all out in Australia and suddenly bounce back. So 36 is the reality, and bouncing back is the reality, right? So therefore, one is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries of elated, when there is happiness, and was free from attachment, fear, anger. Now the attachment here is the attachment to the experience of the result. It is not in regards to attachment to the action, because without affection or absorption in action, the result doesn't come only. The problem is not the action, the problem is the asking this question: how this happened, how could this happen, why. Critical thinking question why is okay, but obsessive thinking why, that is attachment, right? And so therefore, what does Krishna say? The person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who's self-intelligent, unbewildered, and who knows the science of Brahman, is already situated in transcendence. 5th chapter, 20th verse. Right. So therefore, what does Krishna say here? It is not that, please read it carefully. He speaks logic, because it is but natural when you take a sweet, pounce it, you place it in your mouth, something when you're very, very hungry after 5 days of Bhishma Panchak, if you're breaking a fast, eating a grain after 5 days, and somebody offers you nice, cooling paramana sweet rice, when you place that in your mouth, it is pleasurable. Or on the other hand, somebody comes and slaps you, forget slapping, calls you ill name, forget calling ill name, they just disrespect you, forget disrespecting. They do not acknowledge your existence, they just walk by you. Will it not hurt? It will not cause pain to us? Now one may say, why you're giving? Yes, in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, Krishna spoke this to Uddhav. What did he say? He made it very clear, even the greatest of the self-realized person experiences pain when he is insulted. In the 5th canto, it is there. Jada spoke this, that he experienced some pain when Rahuguna was insulting him. Because that is human, that is natural. So, what makes a common sense added with sincere journey of life to see the same experiences differently? The ordinary child, when she or he sees the pain or pleasure, they celebrate more than it deserves. The pain in this world is caused because we celebrate our pain. We celebrate our success more than it deserves. And we suffer our pain more than it deserves. When there is a celebration more than it deserves, and there is suffering more than it deserves, then we are unsettled in the journey of life. Right? So therefore, in essence, what does Krishna speaks here? He is trying to tell Arjuna to minimize the gap between the duality. Krishna did not promise, I will come to this world and I will make this world into Vaikuntha. No, this world you will not become Vaikuntha. You may have the consciousness of Vaikuntha, but this world will continue to remain the land of duality. And therefore, our ancestors gave the experience of duality in a proper dose. It is more important to teach children dvandva rather than, impose faith on them. I tell so many stories. When a child is told by the parents that whenever there is a danger, Krishna, God will protect you. But when they go through certain experiences of life, there is a boy who wrote a book about his abuse in the spiritual place, right? And in one of his writing, he spoke that I'm not angry with God because it does not exist for me. So somebody asked him, why you say like that? He said, you know what, my mother taught me to worship God, to pray for a particular prayer. So whenever there is danger, whenever there is difficulty, you pray, then God will care for you. When a small child hears this, he believes in the words of the mother because it is coming from the mother. But the very child, when she or he experiences exactly opposite when applying that teachings of the mother, the prayer is happening, but the abuse is increasing by the very person who's teaching the prayer. What will happen? Who in the world, as a small child having a very, very delicate faith, at the same time very strong experiences of negativity, will try to process this information? Not possible. It is not possible only. So therefore he said, I am not a victim of suffering, I'm not a victim of abuse, but I'm a survivor of the abuse. But he survived by consciously rejecting the interference of God as presented by his mother to him, not necessarily the root, the deeper connection with God, the superficial cause, the painful cause based upon the painful belief given by his mother. Not the belief itself is painful, but he experienced that belief painfully. Therefore, he said, I'm not even angry with God because it doesn't exist for me. Huh? So, therefore, it is very important that when the children, and what to speak of the grown up children in the form of adults, even they need to understand this concept very clearly. Dvandva, dvandva, dvandva. If Krishna for Arjuna or Krishna Das for Arjun Das, they speak the same language as Krishna spoke to Arjuna, does it make any problem to either party? Oh, they will not understand, only Arjuna can understand. Oh, this is not so important, we have to speak about something very higher. But this is foundation. Whether it is Einstein or whether it is a small child studying in a kindergarten or a first standard, how do they begin with life? They begin with life by studying A, B, C, D, right? The ABCD will continue to remain the foundational letters for writing the most complex thesis of life. You cannot eliminate that. If you do not learn there is no question of writing thesis on PhD. Forget thesis writing on PhD. Even a small message to your boyfriend or a girlfriend, I love you, will not be able to be actualized. So, what is the foundation of learning? The foundation of learning will always remain A. Similarly, the foundation of all learning will always remain this principle in this world: duality, dvandva, dvandva, dvandva. And therefore, if you study the construct of our Mahabharata and Ramayana, how does it begin? How does it conclude? It begins by birth, Adi Parva, Balakanda, right? And where does it conclude? It concludes with departure. The Bhagavatam writer, the speaker of Bhagavatam, Shukadev Goswami, he is the greatest of a devotee, but he also does not hesitate to explain the withdrawal of Krishna from this world. Even for that matter, Avatara accept the limitation of staying here. Avatara does not stay forever in the material world. There is a limitation, 125 years Krishna. Lord Ram stayed much, much more than Krishna, but still it is limited only. Right? So there is no question of, yes, the question is there, oh my God, he left young. But death can come anytime. But at the same time, one can stay for 100 years also. Both realities are there. Huh? One should not focus on saying, oh, I will die anytime and not live that 100 years. So therefore, play the game of life in such a way, let there be victory, let there be defeat, but let us work in such a way to increase the potential of winning while experiencing losing the battle also. Just like a simple understanding will make it more clear, and we can conclude and take tomorrow the next session called as diversity, a discovery through diversity, our reality. Here every question gives rise to answer. If you raise question, the answer will come, and every answer will give rise to new question. That is life. No, that is life, and you understand carefully on this regard. Not getting married gives rise to a question. Getting married gives rise to new question, and new question, if it is answered, gives rise to another new question. Right? So therefore, it is all about learning the art of giving time to raise question, giving time to seek answer, and once the answer comes into our forefront, it will give rise to new question. But the reality is that question has become deeper and deeper and deeper. Not the same question, not the same question, not same question. And as you start asking deeper questions, then there will be a time the question and answer become one with each other. That is called as Advaita. There is a question in the answer and there is an answer in the question, because you are able to see integration between the two. Right? Mahatma Gandhi saw great violence in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and Krishna saw great peace, prosperity, growth, stability. And who's saying this? Sanjay is speaking that, and Sanjay is on the side of the Kurus, a wise man. Right? And what happened? In the peace of Gandhi, there was limitless violence. And in the regulated, disciplined violence of Krishna, there was prolonged, I'm not saying everlasting, a long lasting stability caused by Yudhishthira Maharaj and Parikshit Maharaj. And that did not come easily. If you study carefully, it came after a lot of struggle and hard work. And one of the greatest tragedy of the modern world, the parents do not want to give experience of duality to their children. The education system does not want to give duality to the children. They fear that we don't want our children to experience failure. We don't want them to stay behind. Therefore, there is something called as consolation prize. And what is consolation prize? Consolation prize is nothing but pamper, which is pure poison. Because the real world does not give you consolation prize. The real world gives you victory or defeat. And if you live with the real world, with the teaching presented by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, or simple logic of life tells you victory or defeat, life has to continue. Life has to continue in such a way that enter into the density of questions. Just like when you go for trekking, when you go for mountaining, especially when you go to Hampi, there are a lot of caves. When you go first time inside the caves, you fear, oh my God, I want to come out early because I don't know what's going to happen. But as you keep going on to the caves again and again, you want to explore much deeper, much longer caves. What is that? They are nothing but taking the challenge of asking deeper questions so that your answer is also very, very deep. Right. So, therefore, in conclusion, our Sanjay, no, Vidura told this to Dhritarashtra. He said, my dear brother, wherever you go in the world, whichever part of the world, wherever you go, what will you experience, my dear brother? He said, you'll experience Dvandva. And what is this Dvandva, my brother? He said, there will be people who will love you. There will be people who will hate you. There will be people who will be neutral to you. There will be people who will help you. And there will be people who will whom you will help. These five realities will exist. And the greater reality is the very person whom you love, the very person he loves you, they also go through this experience of hate and love, indifference, serving them and you serving them, right? Why? Because life is designed like that. Life is not even designed, life is existing like that. This entire creation, when we study the concept of creation, because that is part of one of the 10 laws, because if I understand creation properly, I understand this knowledge properly, right? If I understand this knowledge of duality properly, I'll understand creation properly, because they're in a circular logic. Therefore, what Krishna began to Arjuna by explaining the dualities of life. And in that duality of life, there is a key for Amritatva, not even liberation, much greater than liberation, is the experience of stability. And we find this done by the most ordinary people also. I always give the example of New Zealanders, especially the sports fraternity, especially the present current captain, right? He has many heartbreaks coming to the final and losing, but he has a satisfaction of coming to the final compared to others. And he has the courage to lose the match and start playing the next match with the same equipoised mind. Now, this actor one who passed away, he became more famous after his departure. His good qualities, his down to earth nature, his respect to the superiors, his belief system in God, his not criticizing others, helping others grow, made him much greater personality which you could ever imagine. So, therefore, death, was it tragedy? Certainly tragedy for his family. But for him, death has become very profitable, receiving limitless blessings, good wishes, right? And an inspiration for many people to good something good to the society. Therefore, how can we not see the very thing what Krishna is able to see, what Sanjay is able to see, what a small child is able to see? Oh, duality is life. Sometime I win, sometime I lose, but the life has to move on in such a way that we keep throwing the dice regularly. The game should not stop. The game stops means the life stops. If the game continues, at some point of time, we'll reach the destination. And what is that destination from the observational reality? The destination is stability in regards to dealing with the dualities of life. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Yes, we need to continue playing. We need to continue questioning, and we have some questions. Harshi, can you please ask your question?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for the nice class. It's a very important topic. Maybe we need multiple sessions, but I will just go ahead with this. So, this concept of duality, which you have told us, there are multiple approaches which people evolve. Like if you go to the Chinese Shaolin monks, they will treat themselves in bitter heat, cold, punch in the morning, in the evening in the water. Okay, so and then there are philosophers who do other things. Now, the first question is like, what's the appropriate approach? That's one, because we have to apply. I understand we have to learn duality, and secondly, when we applying this principle to others, जैसे कोई मर गया, अरे ये तो होता ही है, ये तो दुनिया का खेल है. So how do we not become insensitive, hypersensitive in the case that बच्चों को कोई पेन ही नहीं देना है, and simultaneously leaving a proper example? So this concept I agree, but how do we deal with it? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So again, as I said, when you learn riding bicycle, instantly stability does not come. Everyone who has learned bicycle themselves through their parents, their friends, their brother and sister, they've dropped the bicycle, they've fallen along with the bicycle, while riding because the overconfidence they have fallen. So similarly, the journey of life in regards to dealing with duality, many times in spiritual circle we hear more about getting a false confidence of protection from God. And don't worry, you take to the spirituality, everything will be all right. Right? So because of that, when and it is again a logical, the psychological reality of human being is that a failed human being, repeatedly failing human being, want to take shelter of some miracle happening in his or her life. A student who has not studied very nicely, he hopes by the grace of God he can pass the examination. And sometimes there are randomnesses. No, there are random events where people experience something what they feel, oh my God, I never studied, but I still got good grades. So when that becomes your narratives in life, then the concept of duality takes a back burner, back seat. Right? So that should be avoided by those who want to sincerely study life as it is and teach their people life as it is. Right? So if they are able to do that, therefore taking children to the nature, living with nature as much as possible. I'm not saying move to the natural place. Let them experience, like saying staying in cities like Mumbai. People are very clear. What do they experience? Everyone wants to experience 26-degree, 24-degree, 23-degree temperature. They want to experience mango 365 days. They want to experience perfect weather artificially created. So what does it do? You don't experience duality only, but the life is so real, it sneaks in, the reality sneaks in, and therefore it is but natural that we are hypersensitive to pain, or we are desensitized by applying the philosophy wrongly. So intellectually you are indifferent, but depending upon your relationship you express also. We will learn that also. So therefore, again, there are simple few things. Start celebrating our festivals which were designed in such a way. Our plays which are non-commercial. If every parents want their child to become a professional, I see children stop playing. Even in play, there is an ambition that wanting to be something else. How will you enjoy play then? Even the greatest of the player, maybe 30, 40 years ago, they bumped into greatness while playing. All right. If we change our strategy of life, then naturally that gives rise to greater unhappiness and distress and difficulty and challenges. Huh? So therefore it is again like a typical style of riding bicycle. Simple things again, when the parents are pampering their children not to lose, a child will always tell mother, I want to eat this only. So you are conditioning your child to experience unconditional pampering, and those who experience unconditional pampering, they will experience unconditional onslaught by the world, because world will not love us unconditionally. World will not give us unconditional pampering. Therefore, this a famous psychologist from Canada, has written a very good 10 rules for life, 12 rules for life. He's explained about this principle. Tough love is very important to ourselves, to others also. And tough love is not abuse. Tough love is a discipline, you know, where a discipline with affection, and affection saturated with discipline will give rise to handling the dualities of life in such a way that we can grow slowly, steadily. At one point of time, we'll have the capacity, courage to experience pain, but not long if there is a suffering, and happiness, not intoxicated with happiness, but enjoy that moment and move on with your life. And only such people will survive and grow, and others will be part of the psychological, consultation with the medical faculty, which is increasing day by day. If you see, how much money we spent on uh, psychological therapy. Hare Krishna. Next question.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, there's a question. Faith and spirituality, can it help us to deal with the dualities of life?
Absolutely. Therefore, that we will discuss when we come to that point, because there are certain ideas based upon this duality where people say world is very mechanistic. Therefore, you don't need any higher principles to help you. If you follow the mechanistic system of the world, you will experience results. And therefore, you play your mathematics in such a way that you minimize the chances of making mistakes. All right, there is this mechanistic Buddhistic philosophy sometimes leads to that, where the grace aspect is completely removed, right? So there is lot of benefit of having faith also, but that we will discuss, as we progress. Today we are focusing on step by step leading to, the concept of dvandva, and tomorrow vividata.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Abhinavji, can you please ask your question?
Thank you, Proji. Proji, you were explaining about a scenario, a situation wherein there is an understanding that Krishna will protect you, but because of some duality, the person might, go towards atheism. You were talking about a child, who is abused and all. So what should be the correct understanding, given to a child and for us also? So should we relate duality? How should we explain duality to children, especially? So should we relate it to Krishna or not? If yes, then how?
Therefore, first, before teaching love of Krishna, which is very abstract, teach them law of God. Because on the foundation of law, which is universal law, which is, if you believe it's God's creation, then we call it God's law. And if you believe that, okay, for me, God is Krishna, then it is Krishna's law. Whether it is God's law, Krishna's law, universal law, the law is same. Fire burns, water quenches your thirst, right? There should not be any debate in regards to whose specific God has implemented this law. Law is law, whether I believe it or not. So we should not become obstacle in regards to our children and ourselves experiencing those dualities. Nowadays, what has happened, in the name of protection, parents do not allow their children to experience also. Some stand-up comedian in Canada was telling that when the parents send their children to take part in martial art or for running, they tell their children, run slowly, otherwise you'll fall. Are you're sending them to run, you're sending them to play martial art, and part of martial art is to get injured. Some pain will be there. If you don't want to experience that, then don't send them. And if you don't send them, the experience of the world will anyway come and, you know, hit them hard. And when they hit them hard, they'll not be able to handle. So the first thing is, you don't teach duality. You stay away from children experiencing the duality. And because in the modern cities artificially we have created, comforts, so now we have to consciously take them to experience dualities of life. And as they grow older, we explain their experiences. And while taking, don't give them higher philosophy of faith. It is like teaching a child those words, vocabulary, which are meant for the PhD student. It will only make them get confused. They may learn the word, but they will don't know how to apply it. No, they will use it for a wrong application. So therefore, it is possible. It is absolutely possible to, because it's a logical world. It's a real world. If a sports team can do that, a film actor can do that without having a deeper spiritual, as far as I understand, maybe they are practicing some spirituality, because we see those who are practicing spirituality react to duality so badly, right? So whether they have practiced or not, at this stage when we are studying this subject, who stands better situated for me? One who is able to handle the duality properly. I would give great credits to Ken Williamson. So that aspect, he is passing the law of God, that he is able to handle the duality. Will he be not appreciated by the laws of God? One may say, but he is not a devotee, but he is following the laws of God. So from God's perspective, if you see from the logic, there will be appreciation. Wow, he is able to stay steady in regards to Dvandva. So whoever practices that, we say, wow, I want to learn from them. You may not learn faith from them, but you learn the principle of how to deal with the duality. No? So there is a question here. I'll take. Sometime as we grow older, we become more fearful in life due to our experiences. How do we continue being positive and fearless rather than being fearful and avoiding situation? Again, when we go through fear or pleasure or certain emotions, one of the greatest tragedy for those people, good people, their tragedy is if some things come their heart which is against their value system, they deny it. Oh no, I can't think like this. Now there is a difference between emotions and desires. Desires are born out of interacting with distractions, and emotions are born out of not fulfilling certain compatibility in regards to connection to universe, compatibility with our own nature, compatibility with our relationships. So if those thoughts do come, don't immediately deny them. Allow them to come, critically analyze them, discuss with those who are very, very close and have the courage and experience to explain, right? So therefore, fear we'll discuss when we talk about time factor. This is an important question, but we'll discuss that when a time factor comes. We will add the concept of certain panchanga, astrological reality and philosophical reality. I wondered if you could elaborate a bit more on your view of not rewarding effort. Consolation prize is pampering. As a business leader and a mother of two, it is my duty and mission to clearly reward effort and not only end result, as this will encourage continuous effort and a stronger understanding of the importance of consistent effort. I feel only exclusively rewarding end result is short-sighted. Your view on this would be greatly appreciated. Again, if you study psychology also, there is this, I personally like that book called as Mindset. So the mindset, or this 12 step for life, certain modern psychology book. And then also based upon what the the Indian psychology teaches, the Indian psychology teaches the student and the child. We are not talking child, which is, it is explained the child from the birth to 5-year-old. Now 5 is not necessarily number, it is not the biological growth, it is the psychological growth of the child. Some child may need unconditional affection till the age of 8 years. Some children may need unconditional affection till the age of 4 years, depending upon their psychological growth. So Chanakya explained, pamper the child unconditionally when they are very young and treat them as a student from the age of 5 to 16. Again, I'm not talking the biological 5 to 16. And from 6 to 16 onwards, treat them as a friend, right? So just see how beautiful it is explained. And it is explained that in long run, when the children are given exactly what they're supposed to deserve, children or anybody for that matter, when they are given as they're supposed to deserve, it may be bitter, it may be painful, but they will learn the art of handling the adversities of life, which will come to their way anyway. Anyway, it's going to come. So in regards to relationship, this is how the principle works. And that is how it always should work. I remember one of our teacher, Radhanas, Maharaj was mentioning to one student, I always tell this story. One girl would come to him regularly, bringing a report card of always coming first in the school, right? And one day he asked her, why you always come first? Why not second, third? And her parents were shocked. She was shocked because generally what we say, well done, keep it up. But here she did not receive well done, keep it up. Rather, she was told, why not second and third? She was looking, staring, and he told, you know what? Life is designed in such a way that you'll not always come first. You'll also come second, you'll also come third. So if you're consciously also adjusting in regards to lose the argument with people, allowing others to win, when surprise loss comes to you, you'll have the capacity to handle. Just like in the army, why an army soldier has a greater stability to handle compared to people working in the commercial corporate world? Because the soldier is trained to handle duality as it is. Recently, one boy, he's studying in a defense, and one exam he was not able to clear, and the kind of discipline they were exhibiting. Then I spoke to an ex-officer. I said, this is not fair. Why they're harassing him for not passing one examination? He said, no, sir. He said, it is not about not passing one examination. He said, army teaches life as it is. And especially army adds the intensity to the soldier in regards to handling duality, right? So therefore, if you want to basically see this principle, when your employee join young, new, they're like newborn babies, pamper them. But as they grow older and committed more to your organization, contributing, showing their efficiency, generally what happens, we abuse people. unfortunately, because the systems are such. And but unfortunately, they are not long enduring. They will not survive. If you follow the laws of life, the profit is maybe less, but the durability increases. I will read certain quotes in my the lecture on karma and time factor, how the statistics shows that invested for long time gives rise to greater results, and invested for short time gives a 50% result. Therefore, this is the principle of life. It is not I'm making this. And therefore, just see how beautifully the first part is unconditional love, the second part is disciplined love, and the third part is a friendship. There is a discussion. And the same principle can be used in all relationship. Again, another example of a relationship between husband and wife, a relationship brother and sister. When you are very young, a 4-year-old child compared to a 9-year-old child is a big gap. Oh my God, 9-year-old child can understand, a 4-year-old child is still not able to, fix its regular thing. But that very 4-year child becomes 40, and the 9-year-old child become 45. There is not much gap in regards to both of their maturity. Or somebody who's 18-year-old child and somebody just born, huge gap between their understanding. But if that child just born becomes 60 and somebody is 78, not big difference. They are both sitting and talking about their old age, right? So therefore, it is important that we try to implement the logic of life in such a way. And if the goal is very clear, you are rewarding the journey, then you have to speak to them. You are not rewarded for achieving something. You are rewarded for your sincere. Let them know why they are rewarded. Otherwise there will be a confusion in regards to they getting consolation prize as again somebody getting the highest prize. What does it do? It makes a person start feeling a content without fire. In that contentment without fire will make them lethargic and laid down attitude. It's okay, everybody gets the prize, why should I do that? We'll take one two question.
We have a
Yeah.
question
Yeah.
from Dr. Vaibhav.
Can you read?
She's going to ask, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Vaibhav is going to ask.
Yes.
Dr. Vaibhav. Okay,
Or I'll take this question.
Okay, we will take the question from Arundaya Kirtana ji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Thank you for
Prabhuji. Yeah.
Take the question next. Yeah.
Okay. So when we try to understand not to have a shortcut to transcend the dualities just by ignoring them, as you said, desensitizing, but at the same time, we also understand, as Krishna says, Machita Sarvadurgani, Matasada Tarishasi. So at what stage or age, definitely it's not an age, definitely it's a stage, but still, so at what stage a person should endeavor, irrespective of how much steady a person, can they endeavor to transcend the dualities by depending on Krishna? Because you can't say that, okay, it's kids. Sometimes the kids may have the capability to absorb Krishna, or the elderly people may be kiddish, cannot transcend this.
So I said we will discuss that aspect. As I mentioned, we are focusing on the observational reality. First, let us focus on this. And the aspect of, as I said, some mechanistic philosopher, they say, we don't need God, we don't need grace, we don't need his compassion. If we mechanistically follow, we will reach our perfection, whatever they call it as a perfection. But when does the principle of grace is involved? When the principle of perspectives are involved, that we'll study in the future. We'll talk about that. But let us focus. This is the reality. Now, this we have to teach them. This is the foundation, like I, E, or like ABCD. And top of that, what kind of logic you build, what kind of literature you build, what kind of ideas you build, that will all based upon your learning of E. So we will discuss that. How much it is there, how it differs from these books written by the modern psychologists. They're 80% correct in regards to logic of life, but there is one important logic they miss upon it, and therefore, as I said, the scientific community went to explore, and they did explore many things, but many things they were not able to explore. From being theistic blind, they became atheistic blind. Now they become agnostic, so they're exploring more and more. And from the Vedic perspective, we do not shun either one of them, neither the theist nor the atheist nor the agnostic, because agnostic and atheism is nothing but reaction to wrong understanding of spirituality. So wait for the when we come to that place.
Thank you, Prabhuji. There's a question by Lakshmikant ji, and he says that till what extent we should tolerate the dualities, because the opportunists, they take advantage that we are left with either to break the relationship or continue the abuse.
No, again, as I said, there is when you suffer more than you deserve, it is artificial, it is unreal. Either you will break within or you break without. That is not, you're not talking about duality, you're talking about oneness, one way. No, suffering, when we say duality, duality is a very dynamic thing. A duality cannot have a leaning towards suffering, prolonged suffering. A prolonged suffering is a disease. Duality is not a disease, duality is a reality of life. And somebody is only enjoying, that's a perversion. Duryodhana, at the cost of everybody else, wanted to enjoy life. Didn't work, doesn't work. Similarly, somebody says, you know what, I don't care. Suffering is part of my life and I'm going to suffer forever. That is not possible only. Entire, otherwise, why would God, for that matter, Avatara Tattva Krishna, would take the suffering so seriously and come as an avatar again and again repeatedly forever to create a balance between suffering and happiness? Right? He has not come here to create, like when the communist regime came in Russia, they talked about creating a lake filled with honey with their socialistic philosophy. Right? Oh, we will create this, we will create that, there will be absolutely equality everywhere. But it has not worked because it is based on wrong premises. So therefore, the question itself becomes redundant in regards to say how long one should tolerate, because people will exploit. They're exploiting because you are considering suffering itself as a duality. No, suffering is part of life, but it is not everything. It is like other day one Ayurvedic doctor told me very interesting point, and we will discuss that also. Disease is your karma and medicine is also your karma. What is the word karma means? One is reflection of what is happening and one is action for what is happening. Hear me once again. A disease is to reflect what is happening to you, and medicine is a reflection in regards to what is happening. That means you are taking some action to overcome that. Right? Therefore, somebody tells you to tolerate forever in regards to something can be changed. There are something you have to tolerate. What is that? The color of your skin. You have to tolerate that. Now there are some places there are reverse abuse. If you're born in a Brahmin family in India, I'm not a Brahmana, so therefore I'm not taking side of my own community. So if you're born Brahmana, you'll be ridiculed. That is a system to be ridiculed. Right, by the system. And then again, if you're born short, if you're 4 feet, that you have to tolerate. If you're 6.8, right, many places you have to bow down, especially if you go to Vrindavan, if you go to many South Indian temples, if you go to some places where you have to repeatedly bow down, bend down, sorry. So then what happens? That you have to tolerate. So there are certain situations you should know this is meant for lifetime. There is no point in cribbing about it. But there are many things which we should know this can be changed. It is changeable. If somebody is experiencing repeated abuse, somebody is experiencing repeated neglect, somebody is experiencing indifference repeatedly, should we tolerate for the rest of our life? That question itself is a redundant. It doesn't fit into the discussion what we are having. Because if anybody has to tolerate something which can be changed and somebody giving you that advice, just tolerate, there'll be reaction to that for one who is giving that idea and one who is trying to follow that idea. Because it is not possible only. It is against the laws of life. So we will stop here and we will visit again tomorrow discussing the diversities of life. Another very interesting presentation, interesting law presented by Sanatan Dharma, which gives rise to inclusivity while experiencing one's own exclusive quality. Thank you.